We've been talking about the consequences of sex outside of marriage, and we talked about the physical consequences. But even if we could provide a condom that would work 100% of the time, that you could know that you'd never get pregnant, you'd never get a disease, are there other reasons why you might want to wait? I think so. I'm just stupid enough to think that sex is more than a biological act to meet a biological need. It's more than a hormone you can't control, an itch you've got to scratch. It's far more than that. It involves more than your body. It involves you. I was on a plane heading to Cincinnati, and this is typical plane conversation. I was sitting next to this businessman, and he goes, "Oh, going to Cincinnati, what do you do?" "I'm a speaker." "Oh, what do you speak about?" Or who do you speak to was first. "I speak to high school, junior high, college students." "Oh, well, what do you speak about?" "Sex." He'll either go back to his reading material or decide to talk to me. This guy thought he'd engage me in conversation, and he said, "Oh, that's really interesting. What do you tell students about sex today?" So we tell them to wait, to not have sex until they're in a permanent, monogamous relationship. By now, the entire plane is listening. And this guy looks at me and he goes, "What? Are you crazy? They're all doing it. They're animals. They're out of control. What's the success rate of a job like that?" Before I tell you what I said to this lovely gentleman on the plane, can I apologize to you for adults who would have ever walked into your life and said you're no better than the family pet? You know, you're no different than a cow, pig, cat, dog. You're going to turn 12, 13, 14, start walking the school halls going, "Rrr." It's not going to matter what fixes the problem, right? We got to have the problem fixed. This is not a hormonal problem. You have a choice. So do I. It's not about hormones you can't control. I said to this guy, I said, "First of all, let me tell you this, not everybody's having sex. There are thousands of teens across this nation who are not having sex." I stood in Atlanta, Georgia in the Dome with 40,000 teens and over 1 million commitment cards signed by students across this nation saying that, believing that true love waits, I make a commitment to myself, to my family, to those I date, and my future spouse to remain sexually pure until I enter a covenant relationship. And we stacked those cards from the floor of the Dome through the roof twice. There are thousands of teens who aren't having sex. Not everybody's doing it. Second thing I said to this guy was this: your yes to sex and my yes to sex doesn't mean a darn thing if we don't know how to say no. Anybody can say yes. It takes no talent or ability. It takes integrity, character, and self-respect to say no. See, sex is more than just a body. It involves me. Sex is a one-flesh experience. It has tremendous bonding ability. It was meant to be that part of me that I gave to my husband I didn't give to everybody else. That part of him that he gave to me he didn't give to everybody else. It has tremendous bonding ability. When I didn't used to speak so much, I used to use duct tape. I'd take duct tape with me and I'd say, sex has the ability to bond two people together just like this tape. I'd take a big piece of that tape, rip it off, get my sleeve all rolled up, wrap that tape around my arm, and it'd stick pretty good the first time I did that. I'd say, I don't want the tape here anymore, and I'd rip it off, and pieces of my arm would come with the back of the tape. Move it on to the next person, stick it to their arm. It'll stick a little. Not as good as it did the first time, maybe a little. Rip it off their arm. Now we got junk from their arm and my arm on the back of this tape. Moved on to the next person, stick it there, rip it off their arm. Now we got junk from their arm and my. Pretty soon the tape's not going to stick to anything at all. It's got so much junk from everywhere it's been. You have sex with someone and the relationship ends. And you're going to take the junk from that relationship into the next, and into the next, and into the next. High school students say this to me all the time. Yeah, but Pam, you don't get it. See, we love each other. This is a person I'm going to spend my life with. We are never going to break up. It's going to last forever, at least until prom. How long do you think the average relationship lasts among high school students today once they decide to have sex, on average? What do you think?
2 months.
Oh, you're close. 3 weeks is the average. You think you're in love? This is going to be forever. 3 weeks later, the girl down at locker 257 is looking a little more exciting, or the guy on the basketball team. It's not football season anymore. We write our Dear John letter, Dear Jane letter, break up, trash that person with our friends. You've heard it done. Oh, they were a jerk. That was really stupid, but this will be better. Got a letter from a guy one day. He said, you know what, this girl, I really loved her. I thought it was going to be forever. And I knew she'd had a past and been with other guys, so school knew that. But she said this to me. Well, you know all those other guys before you? That was just sex. But I love you. Guess what she said to his best friend 2 months later? Same thing. Sex has become a game. I'm through with you, move on to the next, and the next, and the next, and pretty soon I don't have anything unique to give to you that I haven't given to everybody before you, except a few diseases I picked up along the way. Sex has become a game. Something we do here because we're bored and there's nothing better to do in our town. Don't have anything else to do, I guess we may as well do that. I met my husband in college. He was 23. I met him. He was a virgin. That was important to me. I wanted a young man of character and integrity. Wanted someone I could trust. I wanted the kind of guy that treated women with respect, not as objects to be used and dumped when they were through. And my husband said, I love you to me 14 years ago when he married me, not with his words, but with his life. So I was worth waiting for. You're the most valuable gift you'll ever give someone someday. Throwing it away on a relationship that's temporary is not always the best idea. You can't take it back. See, you can't say, oops, I didn't mean to give that to you. Can I have it back now? It's gone. You gave it. That's why it's so important you take it seriously. I was speaking at a parochial school, got done with the day, and this young man, senior, good-looking guy, found me at the end of the day, and I could tell he wanted to make sure that nobody saw him talking to the sex speaker, okay? So once he was sure none of his buddies would see that he was talking to me, came up to me and he said, I need to ask you a question. He talked to you. He said, Pam, you scared me to death today. It's really what's going on. He said, well, you know, first of all, I need you to know I'm a senior. I've been dating this girl. I've been dating this girl for 2 years. She's awesome, perfect, beautiful, wonderful. 10 minutes of that, he was whipped. This was an awesome girl, okay? One of the things he really loved about her, knew he was going to marry her, she wouldn't sleep with him. That was important to him. See, he did this kind of thing that some of you tend to do. Well, I'm going to have my fun now, but when I get married, then I want someone with integrity. But for now, we're just playing around, so it's okay. That was maybe his mind, I'm not sure. But this was the girl he was going to marry because she had integrity. I said, well, what's going on? He said, I scared you. What's the deal? He said, well, just before school started this fall, me and my buddy went to a party. They lived in a town that had a college campus right there in the town, and they were on the college campus probably trying to pretend that they were, in fact, college students and not seniors. And there was some drinking involved, this party, and his exact words were these. This college freshman, this girl, she threw herself at me. What was I supposed to do? He said, I regretted it immediately. I regretted it. I put it under the rug and tried to pretend it didn't happen, and then you showed up at my school, and I know I need to get tested, Pam. I know you're going to tell me that. I said, yeah, you do. He says, I'm afraid you're going to tell me I need to tell my girlfriend what I did. I said, yeah, you are. Yeah, but she threw herself at me. What was I? Control? Fast forward this tape with me, will you? Let's fast forward this tape. 6, 7, 8 years down the road, you've married this beautiful, perfect, awesome girl. You got 2 beautiful, awesome kids. You're working full-time. Maybe your business takes you on the road. I know what that's like. I'm on the road 14 nights a month. You're tired, you've had a long day, you just want something to eat. You go down to that restaurant bar thing, you bring a book, you're minding your own business, and some woman walks up and throws herself at you. Gonna call your wife later and say, sorry, honey, but she started it. Does that fly in your house? It doesn't fly in mine. Students, let me say something to you that wasn't said to me. And I grew up with a family who loved me and told me the truth and told me I needed to wait until I was married to have sex. And I grew up in a church that gave me that same message that said, you need to wait. But here's what I thought. I thought, I'll have to suffer. It'll be really hard and take 185,000 cold showers, and I'll have to really control this. And then after I get married, I'll never struggle again. I was wrong. Students, we're not talking about abstinence. We're talking about chastity. It's a different thing. It's called discipline sexually. Discipline. I have to practice it too. This is not a bunch of big adults walking into students' lives and saying, we can do whatever you want. Don't you do that. No, I have to struggle too. And it's not easy. And let me get real honest with you. The struggles sexually that I've experienced in my life have been far greater after marriage than they ever were before. What makes you think that you cannot control it over here and that someday you're going to get married and be able to control something you never controlled? See, in the 60s, we did this. We said, hey, free sex. We can do whatever we want. It's fun. Everybody sleep with whoever you want. No control. And someday, we'd put a white dress on, a tux on, and the magic discipline fairy would sprinkle dust on us, and we would be able to control what we never controlled back here. We were wrong. Today, 80% of married men admit to having sex with someone else besides their wife during their marriage, and 67% of married women admit to the same thing. And I bet if we take a little field trip this weekend, and we'd all go out to the churches in the area, and we'd find where the weddings were taking place, and the beautiful bride and the groom, and we'd walk in and say, do you love each other? Yeah, I love each other. Gonna be together forever? Yes, forever. Gonna be faithful to each other? Gonna sleep with anybody else? No. 8 out of 10 of them would be wrong. 8 out of 10 of them would be wrong. Students, I finally got smart. My friends used to say to me in high school all the time, well, everybody's doing it. It's just sex. Lighten up. Finally, I got smart enough to look at my friends and say, I don't want what everybody else has. I don't want your disease, your pregnancy, your infidelity, your divorce. I want something more than that. If you want something more than that, you got to choose here. And the choices you make dating are going to affect the relationship you have permanently someday. Long-term stuff, students. Guys, respecting your wife doesn't start when you meet her or walk an aisle. Respecting your wife starts right here. And guys, let me tell you something. Your wife is going to be out Friday night with somebody else. 92% of you won't marry the person you date in high school. Most of you are going to get married to someone you date after your high school experience. Which means, guys, your wife's going to be out this weekend with somebody else. What do you want that guy to do with your wife this weekend? Girls, your husband's going to be with somebody else this weekend. What do you want them to do? You can't take it back. You can't say, oops, I gave that, I didn't mean to. It's really important to think about those things. So what if we're going to wait? If we say, you know what, Pam, we're going to wait. I don't want to have sex. I want to put the boundaries on. How can I date and still have fun and still, do the things that high school students do in relationships and learn about each other and have all this fun without making it sexual? How can I keep the sex out of it? Let me tell you something. First of all, if you've had sex and you're in a relationship that's sexual, you have an opportunity to stop right here. You have an opportunity over the next few years to begin to build that integrity. I did pre-marriage counseling for the first 2 or 3 years of my counseling practice as an internship deal. And when I would have a couple come in and say they were going to get married, I needed to know their sexual past, and I needed to know whether they were currently sexual. And if they were currently sexual with each other, I needed about a year. I said, you know what, can you wait a year? And you need to stop. You need to stop for a year. You need to give each other trust. You need to give each other that knowledge that this is something you can control. If you've gone from one sexual relationship to another, to another, to another, and you've never practiced integrity or discipline, you're going to be in trouble. I've said to students all over the country, if you've had sex, stop. If you're in a relationship that's sexual right now, stop. Begin to evaluate what's there, okay? Because sex is just clouding everything that's there. I had a girl say to me one time, yeah, but Pam, if I go to my boyfriend and I tell him I love him and I don't want to end the relationship, but I don't want the sex part, he'll dump me. Really, what's your relationship all about? It's about sex. Want to test a relationship that's sexual? Want to find out what that relationship is all about? You want to know whether or not they actually love you? Got a challenge for you. Stop. See what's left. If it's love, they'll still be around. If not, you just learned what you needed to learn about that relationship. It's better to learn it here. But is it going to be easy to wait? Whether you've had sex in the past and now you decide to wait, or whether you've not had sex ever and you're deciding that you are going to wait until marriage, is it going to be easy? Oh, it's rough. It's very difficult. I was fortunate enough to have parents who loved me a great deal. And because they loved me a lot, they had a lot of rules. If you think your parents are strict about dating, come talk to me. Mine were worse, and I am a semi-well-adjusted adult. I lived. I've had to go back and thank them for that. Thank them for all of those rules that helped me wait. I got to believe that there are parents represented here who love you. And I've been speaking to you from a counselor's heart these last 2 sessions. I want to speak to you a minute from a parent's heart. My children are 11, 10, and almost 3. My oldest, a 6th grader, is a girl, my only girl. I love her to death. She likes me. She still thinks I'm cool. I know in 2 years I'm going to be the stupidest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. I know that. I remind her every day I love her. And people, I got to believe there are parents represented here who love you, and I hope you talk to them. Sit down and have this discussion. Maybe go home today and say, hey, Mom, Dad, we had to talk about sex at school. I want you to hear something I learned. And after you pick them up off the floor, make sure they're still breathing, you can continue the conversation. Talk about it. Talk about it. First rule I had in my house, and is a rule in my home now for my children, is this: no dating at all, period, until you're 16. I can prove to you statistically, the younger you start dating, the more trouble you're going to get in. It's a been there, done that, bought the t-shirt problem. You start dating in the 7th and 8th grade, and by the time you're in the 10th grade, you're bored silly, and you got to move on to something better. Besides, get real honest with me, because I think you guys know this. Who are 12 and 13-year-old girls dating? 13-year-old boys? What are they doing? Calling up and saying, hey, pick you up on my bike. Want to go out this weekend? What is that? Who are 12, 13-year-old girls dating? Older guys, right? Can I love the younger girls here paying attention, maybe watching on video? Can I love the junior high girls real quick? If there is a senior high guy paying attention to you, let me be real clear with you. He doesn't care about you. Senior hires have always thought junior high girls were easy prey. The reality is this: that guy at 17 can't get anybody his own age to date him, so he's going to go younger and younger until somebody's stupid enough to do it. Don't fall for that. There's not a healthy deal. Make sure that there's not a big age span in your dating relationships. Next standard in my house was this: no single dating at all until graduation from high school. I was only allowed to date in groups. Now, I thought group dating was fun. I got to date more than one guy at one time. And I never lost my friends in the dating process. Have you watched this happen? You got a friend, you're close, they have a life, their grades are good, they're involved in school, they're involved in extracurricular activities, they got this whole life going on. All of a sudden they start dating someone and get super glued by the end of the nose. They can't breathe, function, or think without that other human being. Brain damage is set in. You watch that happen? Get a life. Girls, can I say this to you because we're really bad at this, girls? If you think having some guy surgically attached to your right side makes you somebody, I got news for you, girls. You make you somebody, not some guy. Don't throw away your friends, your life, your future, your goals over a relationship. It's so sad. You see one empty girl, she doesn't have a life, and they have radar for each other, you know. She finds that empty guy, he doesn't have a life, and they just get together and they just start sucking each other dry. Meet my needs. You know, 2 ticks and no dog just going, meet my needs. It doesn't work. You need some balance. Life should be full of a lot of stuff, not just this date. I had a girl in Western New York a couple weeks ago walk up to me at school, take out her hand, pulled out her freshman, 9th grader, shows me her cubic zirconium ring, and says, I'm engaged to be engaged. What is that? Get a life. You know, I don't have a life. I have Steve. That's all. Balance is really important. Group dating will help you keep perspective so you don't lose everything for a relationship. We used to date that way. We used to date in 4 groups of 6, 8, whoever had the biggest vehicle. We had so much fun. Now what we've got is pseudo-marriages going on. I love you. Oh, they break up, lots of tears, and it's, oh, I love you now. Lots of tears when we break up, we move on to the next, I love you. And it's, what is that? You know, have fun, be friends. Don't do this tick thing, okay? You got that? All right, that's what dating should look like. Next thing you need to do in high school when you're dating is you need to date your family. You need to spend part of your dating time in your home with your family and in their home with their family. Guys, you want to know what this girl's really like? Want to know what it'd be like to live with this lovely young lady who just works so hard at impressing you? Talk to her brothers and sisters. They live with her. They'll tell you. Girls, you want to know what this guy's really like? Want to know what it'd be like to be married to this young man you think is so awesome? Watch how he treats his mom. Pay real close attention. I'm saving you thousands of dollars in counseling here if you'll pay attention right here, okay? This is worth gold. Besides, if you marry the person, who do you marry? The whole family. Spend some time around that family. We take that stuff into our relationships with us. And it's important that you understand the system that that person's coming out of. Next thing you need to do is take a quarter with you on every date. Don't leave home without it. This is your emergency quarter. I want it on your person where you can get at it. You're out on a date. Your date starts to say to you, come on, we can do this. This isn't sex. Everybody else do. I love you. Take out your quarter, look at your date kindly, and say, I don't know about that, but here's a quarter. You go call my dad. And ask my dad if it would be okay if we did that. Here's a quarter, call my mom. I'm sure she's home. I'll say no for my kids as long as I need to. You know why? I love them. You can do a lot to me. You can beat me up, steal my car, burn my house down, take my money. I'll probably forgive you. You touch my kid, you're dead. Okay? Love my kids. Guys, I feel sorry for the young man that first asks my daughter out. We're going to have a discussion. First girl my son asks out, I'm going to call her up and I'm going to say, let's do lunch. I'll pay. This is my son, whom I love. Touch him and die. Okay? Guys, don't forget that girl you're dating, that girl you're taking to prom, that girl you're going out with, guys, that's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's little girl. They've invested their lifetime into her. Don't you dare hurt her. Girls, that's somebody's son. They're important to somebody. Make sure you respect that. Summer before my freshman year of high school, I made a commitment to wait to have sex. I get asked by the media everywhere I go, Pam, can teens decide not to have sex and keep that commitment? I mean, is it realistic? Come on. Yeah, it is. My best friend and I were at camp. Never forget, we had the sex talk. I really don't remember everything they said. I do remember that I decided I wanted to wait. We were walking back to our cabin that night. I said, Jody, I'm going to wait. What are you going to do? She said, I want to wait too. I said, will you help me? I'm going to help you. I'm going to be your worst nightmare, Jody, till you get married, and I give you permission to be mine. I give you permission to walk into my life and just slap me upside the head. Okay? I start looking like that tick without a dog. You just slap me. Okay? She was my best friend in high school. My roommate the first 2 years of college. I'd come back to the dorm from a date. She'd be sitting there studying, and she'd go, where have you been? How long were you there? What were you doing? She's a good friend to me. Jody ended up marrying the guy she started dating her freshman year of high school 8 years later, and they saved sex for their wedding night. She asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. She was in mine. And of all the girls I grew up with in Grand Rapids, Michigan, there's one girl, one I still talk to today, and it's Jody. Do you have a friend like that? Not 3 or 4, okay, you'll get beat up. Just one really good friend. Sit down with that friend and say, hey, what are you going to do about this? I want to wait. Will you help me do that? So important that you have accountability relationships, that you have given someone in your life permission to tell you. I've showed up in a town in northern Minnesota to speak at the school. I got in late that night, and a superintendent called me and said, Pam, we got to cancel the assembly tomorrow. I feel really bad about this. I said, what's going on? He says, well, we're still kind of debating, but we're feeling like we better not do this. The weekend previous, there had been a party, big party at the school, and well, somebody's house, I guess, a bunch of school kids involved, and there was drinking. And one of the young girls, Junior, got in a car with a young man who had been drinking, and they hit a tree. He lived and she did not. There was no blood alcohol level in her blood. It was just the guy. And they had just had the funeral that week, and I showed up on Thursday. And so it was a kind of a rough deal, and they didn't know if the kids would be ready. Finally, a couple of school board members said, you know what, this is the time to talk to kids about the consequences of their actions and their behavior. So we went in and did the assembly. When I ended it, students, I said this, because this was really my heart for those kids. Where were that girl's friends? Where was someone that would have looked at her in that moment and said, please don't do this. You're important to me. He's been drinking. Don't get in that car. Did she not have anyone that cared enough about her to say, I love you enough to step in the way here and tell you I love you, and I don't want you to do that. That could hurt you. Friends, real friends, tell each other the truth. And sometimes the truth isn't easy. And sometimes the truth is you're pulling away and you're starting to go and do things you ought not to do. And I love you and I do care about you. And in love right here, I'm going to say to you, you don't want to go that way. Come on back. We all need friends like that, because there are times when I make choices that, quite frankly, you know, my mind's gone. And I need that close friend of mine to say, hey, Pam, come back here. You know, you're getting a little off track. I love you. I care about you. Come on back center. You need those kind of accountability relationships. Let me make you a promise. If you will learn to have that kind of close accountability relationship right here as high school students, it's going to get a lot easier as an adult. And this is a long-term deal. We all need people in our lives that can rein us back in when we start wandering. I told you at the beginning that I couldn't make this choice for you. I spent 9 years of my life bandaging up pieces of young people who desperately wish they could have made different choices. What I'm asking you to do is to think. Every choice you make has a consequence. And no one but you has to live with it. And that's why it's really important you make the best choice for you. Don't settle for something less than the best. You deserve respect in your relationships. You're worth waiting for.